I absolutely feel a responsibility to ensure that the little Black girls coming behind me have even greater opportunities, have people that they can look to for inspiration, that they're seen and that they're heard and that they're valued.
I'm Maya Eaglin. I'm a digital reporter for NBC News covering culture, current events, and more. And today, I'm heading to Battle Creek, Michigan. Battle Creek has a diverse history, starting with the Nottawasepi Huron band of the Potawatomi tribe. In the early 1900s, African Americans fleeing the South made Battle Creek their home, followed by Hispanics, and more recently, the Burmese community. There's so much to learn about the history of these communities and their journey toward racial healing. Now I'm on my way to find out more about the Black experience in Battle Creek. As of 2021, Battle Creek was 68% white and 17% Black. Most Black residents primarily live in the center and north of the city.
Black people were a rich part of this community in terms of economically and culturally. And those are the stories that often are left out of the dominant narrative.
I'm meeting up with Kimberly Hawley. She's a Battle Creek native and executive director at the Sojourner Truth Center for Liberation and Justice.
Sojourner Truth represents resilience and liberation. This was a phenomenal woman, and her story is a complex human story. She was born into slavery, but she did walk away from slavery. And she was able to speak from her lived experience in terms of advocating for the abolishment of slavery.
What's Sojourner's connection to this area?
Battle Creek in the mid-1800s was kind of known as a progressive city. There were Quakers here that were really social justice advocates. And she was invited here to speak for one of their meetings. In 1856, and whatever that experience was, she decided to relocate to this area the following year.
So fast forward a few years, we have the Emancipation Proclamation, we have the Great Migration where a lot of Black folks are coming up north. What was that period like here?
People began to migrate here when businesses were erecting in Battle Creek and people wanted to live near where they worked.
Let's talk about Black Bottom. It's a neighborhood I'd never heard of before. Can you tell me a bit more about it?
It was an area that was kind of called the Flats. It later became called the Bottoms because it sat at the bottom of the river and would flood often. And there was the Great Flood of 1947 where the city realized that they really needed to do something. And that was about the time where you were seeing across the United States, kind of in the 50s and early 60s, these urban renewal projects. When they decided to redirect and widen the path of the river to prevent the flooding, about 300 to 400 Black families were displaced from that area. In some respects, it had an impact on what housing and segregation looked like. So I think it's really important to understand the history and how that has played out over years and continues to play out until we disrupt those patterns and practices and create more equitable systems.
As a Black woman doing this work, standing on the shoulders of your ancestors here, how does it feel?
It's an honor and a responsibility to carry on the work of my ancestors. I absolutely feel a responsibility to ensure that the little Black girls coming behind me have even greater opportunities, have people that they can look to for inspiration, that they're seen and that they're heard and that they're valued.
So after speaking to Kimberly, I was just left with this understanding of how the past, present, and future can really impact the current community here in Battle Creek. She uses the legacy of her ancestors, the legacy of Sojourner, to inspire and put forth a pathway of how to solve the issues that are systemic, that are impacting her community. And now there's a new generation to addressing the historic effects of racism in this community. Let's go. I'm on the way to meet Kyron. When you talk about someone doing the work, it's her. Kyron's 21 and working on bringing her generation into these conversations and spaces for healing.
I use my voice, but not everybody gets that platform or opportunity to do so. So voices are often left out. We are looking forward to branch out into the youth and youth spaces so they can also have the chance to be a part of racial healing circles.
Kyron's a racial healing practitioner and has invited me to the library tonight for a healing circle.
I've just always been a very passionate person, but I also have the ability to use my voice, right? And I've never had a problem truly conveying what I want out there and what I see that is unjust. So to learn to take that fiery energy and combine it with the skills of facilitation, it made sense and it made me a better person for it.
What is a healing circle?
A healing circle is a discussion held with a group of people where we talk about questions that often aren't talked about enough. We touch those spots, those sensitive spots where people normally get uncomfortable and shy away from. And we open up this floor for dialogue that's in a healthy, safe space in order for people to share those things. And we all try to find that humanity that we share of living in America, living in this world, living with systemic oppression and how it affects all of us.
How did you get involved with this type of work?
When I was like 14, 15, I really branched out of my mother's shadow to really pursue social justice on my own. And when I was in high school, around January for the National Day of Racial Healing, they had a youth summit. And so when I was at this youth summit, I saw how it was ran and it was wonderful. So I signed up, and to be in this space with people who have been to Ivy Leagues, masters, all of that, and to be considered an equal and respected as one, despite me being, someone who is disabled and was depressed. But to be there in those spaces and to receive the respect that I didn't receive from my school and from other people, it's like I knew it was right. I knew it was the right space for me.
And so your mom is also doing a lot of this work with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Monica.
Hello there.
Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I like working with Kyron because I learn a lot. Kyron is like so much more advanced in the racial healing thing than me.
And we're both very ambitious. We're very passionate too. And I feel like that makes for a better circle because we're not afraid to take it there.
I think tonight we're going to see some emotion come out. We're talking about ancestors and how they affect our lives.
Everything is all about the ancestors, right? They paved the way. They still provide that guidance, even from, the ancestral realm. So for me, that always gets me emotional.
Where do you think the source of some of those tears comes from?
I think the source is a lot of people don't talk about things.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things are held in and it needs to come out. I think people need to have these conversations and you need to talk about the memories you had as children and the things that hurt you and the things that you want to fix, but you don't know how because there may be somebody next to you that knows how they fix that same thing in themselves and they can help you with that.
It's just so healing just to say things out loud. So speaking my truth, it's vulnerable, but I'm okay with that, right? And just letting it all out, letting it into the space, throwing that in the air, it's amazing. It's not tears of sadness. It's more tears of like freeing myself, freeing my emotions, really getting that out because I used to be the person to push it all in and I still do, but I'm a work in progress, right? It's just healing.
And later,
the community basically said, we know how to survive, but we want to thrive and we want you to provide programming that will help us get there. In our home country in Burma, people are losing their life to fight for the right that we have right here.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.